My name is Tylluan. I'm a solitary pagan witch. I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. And it's been a while since I did my last video. We waited until the dogs were quiet. Oh, that's Noah. He's just moved a chair. He started shifting furniture now. We waited until the dogs were quiet, and now that we've started filming, they're all awake. So you may see some waggy tails or what have you, because they do like the filming. Anyway, this evening I thought I would talk to you. How do I know I'm a witch? And the reason I decided on this is because I've had this question a couple of times in the past 2 months. About 5 or 6 times, and I thought, well, this is obviously something that people wonder about, so if I can help, I will. The first thing I'd say about whether or not one is a witch is that really it's self-defining. And what I mean by that is that we are the only people who know. That goes for solitaries. I mean, obviously, if you're going to join a group, join a coven, and you're going to be initiated in a particular path, Gardnerian, Alexandrian, whatever, then other people are going to be able to tell you, you're a witch, you've done this, you've done that, you've fulfilled their requirements. But I know a lot of the people who watch these videos are actually solitaries like me. And so, it always... Well, my heart goes out to people who write and ask, how do I know I'm a witch? The first thing I'd say is, well, if you feel you might be a witch, the next thing is to discover more about witchcraft. Witchcraft and Wicca are not entirely the same things. I mean, there are those who say they are, interchangeable. I don't think they really are. I think it's possible to be a witch without being a Wiccan. Although it is also possible to be a Wiccan and a witch. I always describe myself as a solitary pagan witch, because that sort of covers all the bases. And that rather strange rhythmic noise you can hear possibly in the background is Noah and Audrey cleaning each other. They're not fighting today, they're being very good to each other. Best behaviour. So the first thing, as I say, it is really self-defining, and although some people will throw their hands up at that and say, oh no, you can't have that. If you think back to sort of 60, 70 years ago, you think of something like gender. I mean, you were a boy or a girl. There was no such thing as transgender, and yet people felt the same way, that sometimes they felt they were born in the wrong skin. And I think people are a lot more understanding about that now. I think it's understood rather better that you can be born a particular gender, but your sexuality might be quite different. And I think it's very similar with matters of witchcraft. Am I a witch? Well, do you feel like a witch? Do you feel you might be a witch? And if you do, then the answer is you really have to try and find out more. Now, where do we start finding out more? Well, it is tricky. There are lots of resources on the internet, and I'm sure if you go searching you'll find loads of them. And I always say to people, read wisely, read widely, and read well. And those three are very important. You can't separate them really. You have to read widely because there are going to be loads and loads, hundreds if not thousands of books out there that may deal with the questions you're asking. You have to read wisely because sometimes you can tell, I know they say you can't judge a book by its cover, and it's true, but sometimes you can tell by looking at a book whether or not it's going to be the sort of book that you will find helpful. And when I say to read well, what I mean by that is read intelligently. Mr. Penry and I often have arguments in the morning because I've been reading the paper or reading something on the internet more like. And there are what I call weasel words. And what I mean by that is that sometimes you're reading things and it is what is not said that is really significant. And we have to train ourselves. If we want to be witches, we've got to become wise. And one of the ways you become wise, reading wisely, reading well, is to, how can I explain it? You have to be on the lookout. You have to be almost like an interrogator, interrogating what you're reading, so that you're saying, yes, but, yes, now tell me more, or no, I don't agree with that because. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we're not there to follow blindly. That's not what following a craft or following any spiritual path is about. I mean, if you want to follow something blindly, well, go and join something that's established and just, you know, don't worry then. But if you're following your own path, if you're trying to strike out on your own, if you want to find out whether you really are a witch, well, then you are going to have to interrogate what you read. You're going to have to ask it questions. Keep notes. That's another one. I can't tell you the number of times I've read things where I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I don't believe this. This can't be true. And it turns out, no, it's not true. And conversely, the opposite happens. I know, many years ago, I read a book by, I think it was Charles Berlitz, who was, his grandfather founded the language schools, and he was the one who talked about the Bermuda Triangle and all that, and he wasn't terribly well thought of in terms of being a reliable source. And yet, I remember reading one of his books, and he mentioned these French caves. And I was reading it, and I thought, no, this can't be true. This is fantasy. But being me, I went off and I checked it, and it was absolutely true. And it led me on an absolutely roller coaster of a ride into the distant past. And this is what we do, you see. We are on a journey. We are on an adventure. So, if you want to know whether you're a witch or not, if you think you might be, chances are that you are. You may not be exactly the same sort of witch as me, or as somebody else in another group, or somebody else who writes books. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you're on a certain path. You're on an adventure. And I really hope you start to explore it for yourself. Read widely, read wisely, read well. That's your first point. And, oh, Noah's sighing. Thank you, Noah. And I think this is our first step. Start to read, start to discover, start to look about you. You know, don't take things for granted. Don't imagine because a book says you must set up your altar and you must have, you know, this for the salt for the north, or earth for the north, and a tea light for the south, for the element of fire and all this. Don't take it for granted. If you're worried about things like that, get outside first and discover where east, north, south and that, where they are in relation to where you live. I mean, I can tell you north is over there. Because I know, because I go out, because I go and have a look. And west is over that way. So these are things you need to do for yourself. Go off, go and experiment. Go and have fun. Above all, enjoy it and don't worry. And one of these days, you'll be able to turn around and say to yourself, yes, I am a witch. Yes, I really am. I really feel I can hold my own with anybody. Or you might feel, well, it was a very interesting journey and adventure, but no, that's not quite for me. I've got to keep looking. I've got to find something else. You might find that you need to explore druidry, something like that. There is so much out there. It's a wonderful adventure. I really, really hope you enjoy it. And thank you so much for listening. Good night.